Few remember the bespectacled kid from Lubbock who learned violin before guitar, who opened for Elvis Presley at 19 and watched everything change, who formed a band called The Crickets and helped invent the rock lineup still used today. But February 3rd, 1959, ensures we'll never forget Charles Hardin Holley, better known as Buddy Holly, the 22-year-old who died in a snowy Iowa cornfield after only 18 months of stardom, leaving behind a legacy so profound that the Beatles took their name partly in homage to his band, The Crickets. Charles Hardin Holley was born on September 7, 1936, in Lubbock, Texas, the youngest of 4 children born to Lawrence Odell Holley and Ella Pauline Drake. His mother nicknamed him Buddy, feeling that Charles Hardin was too big for her young boy. The Holley family were devout Baptists and members of the Tabernacle Baptist Church. His father worked as a tailor, and though Lawrence didn't play instruments himself, he and his wife Ella encouraged their children's musical talents. At age 5, Buddy performed Down the River of Memories at a talent show in County Line, Texas, winning $5, his first public performance and payment as an entertainer. He took piano lessons at age 11, proving an apt pupil before quitting after 9 months. He briefly studied steel guitar, then picked up acoustic guitar and taught himself to play. At Hutchinson Junior High School, he befriended Bob Montgomery. The two formed a duo performing country and what would eventually be called rock and roll music. They called themselves Buddy and Bob and performed at local clubs and school talent shows. By 1955, after graduating from Lubbock High School, Holley decided to pursue full-time music. His turning point came when he saw Elvis Presley perform live in Lubbock. Bandmate Sonny Curtis recalled, "When Elvis came along, Buddy fell in love with Elvis and we began to change. The next day, we became Elvis clones." In October 1955, Holley opened for Bill Haley and his Comets, where he was spotted by Nashville scout Eddie Crandall, who arranged a recording contract with Decca Records in February 1956. The Decca sessions failed. The label wanted country music. Holley wanted to experiment with rock and roll. After several unsuccessful singles, Decca dropped him. Holley returned to Lubbock determined to succeed. In February 1957, Holley and his new lineup, Jerry Allison on drums, Joe B. Malden on bass, and Nicky Sullivan on guitar, went to producer Norman Petty's studio in Clovis, New Mexico, adopting the name The Crickets. They recorded That'll Be the Day, titled after a phrase John Wayne's character repeatedly says in The Searchers. Brunswick Records signed The Crickets, while Holley signed a solo contract with Coral Records, Brunswick's subsidiary. This unusual arrangement meant the Crickets released records with backing vocals. The distinction made no difference in their recording approach. All featured Holley's unmistakable vocal style, incorporating hiccups, nonsense syllables, wide range, and abrupt pitch changes. That'll Be the Day became an international multi-million seller in 1957, reaching #1 on both US and UK charts. Peggy Sue followed, peaking at #3 on Billboard's pop chart and #6 on the UK singles chart.
Peggy Sue, West Side Love so very true. Oh, Peggy, my Peggy Sue.
Other hits included Oh Boy, Maybe Baby, Rave On, and Every Day. Holley and the Crickets toured extensively, performing at venues including the Apollo Theater in New York City, appearing on The Ed Sullivan Show, and touring the United Kingdom in March 1958. In the audience were teenagers named John Lennon and Paul McCartney, who later cited Holley as a primary influence. The Beatles chose their name partly in homage to Holley's Crickets. In summer 1958, Holley met Maria Elena Santiago, a receptionist at Pier Southern Music in New York. He asked her to marry him on their first date at P.J. Clark's restaurant. They married on August 15, 1958, at his parents' home in Lubbock. Holley was 22. In October 1958, Holley split from the Crickets and moved to Greenwich Village in New York City with his new wife. Financial and legal problems resulting from the band's breakup left him in need of income. In January 1959, he reluctantly agreed to join the Winter Dance Party tour through the Midwest, 24 shows in 24 days. The tour was poorly planned. The route zigzagged erratically across the Midwest rather than moving logically from city to city. Distances between venues sometimes required 10 to 12 hours of travel, on 2-lane rural highways in sub-freezing temperatures. The converted school bus used for the tour lacked adequate heating. It broke down repeatedly. By early February, drummer Carl Bunch had developed frostbite on his feet so severe he was hospitalized. On February 2, 1959, the tour arrived at the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake, Iowa, for the 11th of 24 scheduled performances. Holley, frustrated by the brutal tour conditions, chartered a small plane from Dwyer Flying Service for $108 to fly himself and 2 others to Fargo, North Dakota, the nearest airport to their next stop in Moorhead, Minnesota. He hoped to arrive in time to do laundry and rest before the next performance. Waylon Jennings, Holley's bassist and friend from Lubbock, initially had a seat on the plane but gave it to J.P. Richardson, who was suffering from the flu. When Holley learned Jennings wasn't flying, he jokingly said, "Well, I hope your old bus freezes up." Jennings responded, also in jest, "Well, I hope your old plane crashes." The exchange would haunt Jennings for the rest of his life. The Beechcraft Bonanza took off from Mason City Municipal Airport at 12:55 a.m. on February 3, 1959. Pilot Roger Peterson, 21 years old with 711 flying hours, received clearance for takeoff despite light snowfall. Minutes later, the plane encountered high winds and snow. Peterson, who lacked proper instrument flight certification, became disoriented in complete darkness with no visible horizon. The aircraft crashed in a cornfield approximately 5 miles northwest of the airport. All 4 occupants died on impact. The Civil Aeronautics Board concluded the probable cause was the pilot's unwise decision to embark on a flight, which would necessitate flying solely by instrument. Holley's funeral was held on February 7, 1959. At the Tabernacle Baptist Church in Lubbock, Holley's body was interred at the City of Lubbock Cemetery in the eastern part of the city. His headstone carries the correct spelling of his surname, Holley, and features a carving of his Fender Stratocaster guitar. His widow, Maria Elena, did not attend the funeral. She was 2 weeks pregnant at the time of his death and suffered a miscarriage the day after learning of the crash. The modern age of rock and roll can be divided into 2 eras, before Buddy Holly and after Buddy Holly. He pioneered the now standard rock lineup of 2 guitars, bass, and drums. He was among the first artists to write, produce, and perform his own material. He introduced studio techniques such as double tracking and overdubbing that would become industry standard. 22 years old, 18 months of recording. Yet his influence shaped the next 60 years of popular music. Great art never dies. It just waits patiently for the next generation to discover it, to be transformed by it, to carry it forward into the future he never got to see.